Good morning, everybody. My name is Mikhail Fominykh. I am a researcher at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, working mostly in the area of technology-enhanced learning on the technology side, focusing on augmented reality. And I'm also the coordinator of the ARIDLL project. And on behalf of the entire consortium, welcome to this webinar on the topic of augmented reality and artificial intelligence in language learning. We have an exciting program prepared for you today. We will have a collection of short and interesting presentations. I will first start by briefly telling you about the project. Then we will continue with 15-minute presentations of the instructional design guide on augmented reality in language learning, and also another guide of technical recommendations on both AI and AR tools to support language learning. After that, we will have a series of even shorter flash presentations covering various pilots that we did in the project with different types of language learners. The second part of the program includes two more interactive sessions where we will give you a demonstration of some examples of augmented reality and artificial intelligence learning activities that we designed in the project, and we will also try to create one such activity together with you. So I will start with a short introductory presentation and would like to tell you briefly how we worked in the project and what we did, give you some examples of what we did. We are 8 partner organizations in the consortium, all engaged in language education, although every partner engages in language teaching with different kinds of learners, starting from school pupils to university students, intensive courses for exchange students, courses for adult learners, both on campus and online, and so on. We also had technical expertise in augmented reality and AI in almost every partner organization. We worked in 2 cycles of activities. We started working on methods, trying to answer the general question how to use augmented reality in language learning. We then collected built our own expertise and experience in creating learning content with AR for language education and piloting this with different kinds of learners. We are now gathering all our lessons learned and best practices, summarizing them, and this webinar is a part of this process. In the second cycle, somewhere in the end of 2023, we also added AI to our technical setup, and we, in the second cycle, looked at the combination of AR and AI for language learning. We produced 2 guides, and both of them will be presented later today. First is the instructional design guide for AR in language learning, much more focused for language teachers and talking about linguistics. And the second guide is slightly more technical. It's entitled Technical Recommendations for AI and AR Tools for Language Learning. Both of these guides are now in editing and will be published during September. And of course, will be available on our website and our social media, so stay tuned. In ARIDLL, 2 groups of experts work together, linguists and language teachers on one side, and then AR and AI technical experts and developers on the other side. The language experts supplied ideas, needs, and scenarios for using augmented reality in language education, and of course, they also monitor the domain relevance of whatever we produce so that it's all relevant, or in some cases irrelevant, for the learning objectives in language education. On the other side, from the technical experts, we did evaluation of the feasibility of these ideas and scenarios. We worked on implementing features, and we provided technical supports to our language teachers. We organized, I will just give you some examples of face-to-face events we organized, and these were organized as workshops between experts in augmented reality and language teachers. So we organized them in all the countries of the consortium, in Greece, Cyprus, Germany, United Kingdom, Norway, and Spain. We did 2 cycles of these workshops. These are just some examples to give you an idea how we worked. And we have been using an educational AR software system called MirageXR in our project activities, creating learning content and piloting. This application is available on Google Play and App Store. It can be used on mobile devices, on phones and tablets. I should also mention that this application has been in active development throughout the duration of our project, and the developers were accepting input from our project, from our scenarios and ideas, among other sources. And so we were able to progress both the methodological, instructional, linguistic part, and also the technical part of the augmented reality enhanced language learning. This software also works on smart glasses in addition to phones and tablets, and we did some experiments and some pilots on the smart glasses. And these are just some examples of how we worked on trying to build the content. So this is just a screenshot from one of the steps in one of the learning activities. So we designed them in a way that we can present these designs to teachers. We can work together between teachers and developers, planning how we create content and so on. And we also created different kinds of tutorials. This is, again, just a part of a cheat sheet that we created for teachers, and we tested how understandable these instructions are and how we can work with these teacher instructions. This is a small video showing an example of an activity we built.
What are you doing here?
I need your help.
I told you I won't help you with your crazy stuff anymore.
Listen to me. This seems important and I can't translate it without your help.
Let me have a look at it. I will, but on one condition. Please find my orange cat.
Designed as a single-player mystery game, the activity integrates real and virtual environments by allowing learners to interact with digital content through the camera of a mobile device. As learners navigate the space, they encounter contextualized input in the form of spatialized 3D audio and textual hints on labels, which serve as both linguistic input and narrative elements.
Okay, and there's another example of how we worked a bit later in the project.
Jeg I tvil fordi dette kan gjøre det vanskeligere for lokalbefolkningen å finne boliger, spesielt for de med lavere inntekter, som sykepleiere og lærere. Jeg også bekymret for at det sentrale Tromsø blir mer turistpreget og mindre tiltalende som en vanlig by å bo I. Hva tenker du om dette?
We have also produced quite a number of publications, different articles summarizing some of our approaches, the processes, and pilot results. So feel free to go to the website and check the publication sections, which is still going to be extended a bit further. So that was a very short summary of how we worked, the process, and how we collaborated between different partners and different types of experts, and a little bit of what kind of activities we've created. And with this, I would like to invite our next presenter, Antigoni. You can share your screen.
Thanks, Mikhail. Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Antigoni Parmaxi, and I'm a language instructor and researcher at the Cyprus University of Technology. And on behalf of the ARIDLL team, I will present our work on the instructional design guide for augmented reality in language learning. So in this guide, we demonstrate the potential as well as the challenges of augmented reality in the context of language learning, aiming to provide valuable insights that can be beneficial for both researchers and practitioners in this emerging field. As Mikhail said before, the instructional design guide will be available for anyone interested in our website and social media. So the motivation behind this guide is the necessity to demonstrate and identify practical examples and guidelines on the use of these emerging technologies. The guide showcases examples of augmented reality activities for different age groups across different learning environments. And it also provides practical guidelines for designing and implementing augmented reality activities in language classrooms. It has a focus on practical applications, aiming to inform practitioners and researchers on the advantages and potential challenges in designing and implementing AR activities in language classrooms. So how was the guide developed? We started with narrative review and expert consultations with teachers and AI and AR experts that brought to the surface theoretical insights, practical guidelines, and classroom strategies that were then brought together in a comprehensive narrative that includes both literature and practice. Here, it's the roadmap of the instructional design guide that includes an introduction to augmented reality, its benefits and challenges, and it's aligned with learning design principles and pedagogical theories. And it also includes practical tools and scenarios accompanied with specific lesson plans that can be used in language classrooms. Now, what is augmented reality? As the examples demonstrated by Mikhail, it's a technology that overlays virtual elements into the real world, enhancing user perception and interaction. In language learning, AR offers resources and new context for learners. And it can be presented in either 2-dimension or 3-dimension forms, depending on the desired experience. Now, coming to the effectiveness of AR in language learning, this is supported by research. So a recent meta-analysis found that augmented reality has a significant positive effect on both linguistic gains and affective gains. For linguistic gains, such as vocabulary acquisition, grammar knowledge, and language skills in general, the effect size was in HSG 0.734, which is considered a moderate to large effect. And for affective gains, including motivation, attitudes, and self-efficacy, the effect size was 0.692, which again demonstrate a moderate to large effect. Key benefits identified in the literature also include improved cognitive and spatial abilities in authentic context, enhanced creativity and attention, reinforced interactions between the peers or the environment, reduced anxiety during language practice, and increased engagement and motivation. These findings demonstrate that AR is not just a novel tool, but is a powerful tool for enhancing language learning outcomes. Now, moving to the theoretical foundations that connect directly augmented reality to language learning, constructivism tells us that learners build knowledge through experiences rather than simply receiving information. So AR supports this by making learning contextual, and students can actively explore and manipulate virtual objects and construct understanding through hands-on practice. Similarly, sociocultural theory emphasizes that learning is a social process shaped by cultural tools and interaction with others. So AR aligns well with sociocultural theory, as it enables collaborative language activities, and it provides scaffolding through virtual guidance, and also allows cultural context and artifacts to be brought directly into the classroom environment. And finally, connectivism highlights that learning happens through networks and digital connections. Augmented reality makes this real by linking physical and digital information and supporting learners to extend their knowledge that distributes beyond the classroom walls. Now moving to the actual ways that teachers can design tasks in the classroom. There are three types of ways that augmented reality can be used. The first one is information transmission activities, where students access content directly in context, for example, by scanning objects or by exploring AR books that are enhanced with audio or video. The second type is social constructivist activities in which learners go beyond passive reception. They can record, they can annotate, and also interact with the environment, and sometimes they do so collaboratively. They can solve AR escape room puzzles, or they can navigate the surrounding and find clues to solve a mystery. And finally, we have constructionist activities in which students become designers. They create augmented reality artifacts, which can be augmented reality stories or augmented reality games. So these categories move from receiving information to interacting with it and building new artifacts. And the progression reflects deeper engagement with both language and the environment. Of course, augmented reality comes with challenges, and we can highlight 4 aspects here. Technical issues such as connectivity or small screens can limit the use of augmented reality. Cognitive load can be high if tasks are too complex, and teachers often need training to use augmented reality efficiently. And finally, augmented reality is still developing as an educational tool. So the question is if the technology is mature enough to deliver promises in the language classroom. Now we can move to some practical applications of augmented reality in language learning. These are some examples from the instructional design guide. We have additional ones that you can review yourselves in the actual guide. So these applications demonstrate how augmented reality can create authentic, engaging language experiences that bridge the gap between the classroom learning and the real world use. One example is an AR-based mobile English composition learning material, where students take a campus trip with AR-enabled smartphones. And when they point their cameras at predefined locations, descriptions appear on their screens, which they can use to write compositions. And the research showed that students incorporated linguistic expressions from the AR material in their essays and also demonstrated improved vocabulary and writing skills. The next example deals with vocabulary, a marker-based vocabulary and grammar practice. And to date, vocabulary has received the most attention in terms of the application of augmented reality. This is most likely because it has the potential to demonstrate in real life the situation that is being demonstrated in a plain paper, let's say. These applications often do not need demanding or complex programming. So in this example, they have used photos as triggers, each of which was augmented with a video of a mini dialogue and supported students in retaining new vocabulary items and its associated pronunciation in context. The next example comes from a popular application, Mondly AR, which allows learners to place virtual characters in their own environment and engage in conversational practice. And it offers a low-stakes way to build confidence in speaking and have a real-world interaction. So virtual humans are computer-generated characters that are integrated into the users, into the learners' real-world environment. Their aim is to facilitate social interaction and engagement with the AR context. And they are not just static, let's say, in digital objects, but they are rather interactive, with an aim to demonstrate human-like characteristics. So in language learning, virtual humans serve as practice partners, providing learners with opportunities for authentic spoken practice in a controlled, risk-free environment. For example, students can use a virtual human, a virtual instructor, to interact with a waiter, a virtual waiter, to practice ordering a coffee, or a virtual tour guide to ask for directions. So we'll see more examples of how this can be applied in the examples that follow. When implementing AR now, some considerations to consider. Technically, you will need to have devices. The majority of AR applications use mobile devices like smartphones or tablets. And you will also need to consider whether you will be using marker-based or markerless tracking. Cost is another important factor. Expenses might include equipment, development, and maintenance, and challenges include technical issues that need to be considered ahead, the time required for students to familiarize themselves with the technology, and it's important to start small, perhaps with a pilot project, and then scale up as you gain experience and resources. And finally, for instructional designers and teachers that aim to create augmented reality learning experiences, several best practices can guide your work. When designing, start with pedagogy, not with technology. Choose tools that fit your goals. Keep tasks simple to avoid overwhelming and making the task too complex for the students. And always test your devices and connections in advance. It's important to ensure that you are aligned with the learning objectives. So as I said before, AR should enhance and not distract your learners from the goal. And secondly, adopt a learner-centered design. Consider the needs of your students, the preferences, and their limitations. It's important to embrace an iterative development to test the technology with your learners and make refinements based on the feedback that you receive. And finally, consider accessibility issues to ensure that learners can benefit from the experience. So to conclude, augmented reality has the potential to transform language learning by blending together the physical and the digital world. So it needs to be designed thoughtfully to enhance the language skills and the confidence of our learners. The hand is on the teachers to make the decisions aligned with their objectives to support their learners in the best possible way. So I'm giving the floor to Fridolin.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you, Antigoni. Great insights, as always. I'm honored to share with you a few insights we have from the technical front. However, we decided to focus very much on this overlap of AI in support of AR, where things come together. So I'll try to restrict myself a little bit to that. Nevertheless, before I get into the detail, I thought I share this with you. That captures my thinking around what augmented reality does from a theoretical stance, and that very much is expressed in this trias that you see here in front of you. Reality embedded learning happens in between information exchange and information. Anyways, back to this trias. So information exchange, when you look at the literature, for example, Peter Janich's famous work about information is deeply rooted in communicative exchange. Information is something that is conveyed when we have a conversation with question and answer, and the question asks for a piece of information and the answer provides it. But the information itself is free of the form. It doesn't matter in what word order I provide the information, or if I spread it out across 10 sentences, it still is the same piece of information and can be thrown into the same class. That's why Janich calls it an information abstractor from the propedeutic class. Nevertheless, information is also significantly different from competence. Competence is that human potential that we want to hone and develop so that we're good citizens and self-determined and have a fulfillment in life. Competence is really just a mere potential to produce. Performance is then what puts it into action. And again, this is distinct from the kind of environmental grounding, the rich multimodal experience that we have, the memorable moments that we create. And reality embedded learning happens exactly at this interplay in between the three. So if we look at our example, we've seen versions of this now in the earlier presentation already. This is pretty much echoed here. We have the same thinking here, and if I jump in, the information exchange happens with the virtual instructor. So this just kind of ask a question, receive an answer. The environmental grounding is symbolized here by some digital elements, but you can see in the background also some real elements. And here this cafe chart, this is obviously some sort of learning exercise with a cafe situation and a sales agent conversing with the user. And where is now the competence development here? That's not in the picture because that's you. That's the learner who is interacting with this exercise. So that's what reality embedded learning is. And that's for me very much what you commit to when you work with AI and AR to create virtual instructors embedded into the real world. In the more technical guide we wrote to support developers of apps, instructional designers, teachers with the instruments, how to create powerful AI-enabled AR agents, we put a bit of a theoretical methodology behind it that you can see depicted here. We consider patterns, first of all, and I'll come to that in a second. But we made sure that we develop this iteratively and refine it and go out and check for feedback, try it out in pilots, as you've seen in the earlier presentation from Mikhail. And we inject at least 2 frameworks and models into this iterative refinement process. That's the METOX model, which looks at psychological needs in the design of experiences. And it's the clear framework about AI interaction and how we can make the design of prompts more refined. Yeah, and that then acts around in this cycle here that looks at user autonomy and building competence and fostering a sense of belonging and doing that all in a methodical way. So if we look at METOX and CLEAR briefly, METUX is METUX is a model about motivation, engagement, and thriving in user experience. So dealing with the positive outcomes we would want to achieve when we have learners engage with a user experience. And when we follow the METOX model, we can see the design of learning experiences is mediated by autonomy, competence, and relatedness, and our psychological need that we thrive for that, for self-fulfillment, for control, for agency, for feeling competent, feeling able, and having a sense of belonging. And we need to consider these in each of the spheres of experience when we look at user experience. And that's quite tangible. The user interface, so the thing we interact with directly, but then also the underlying task that it serves, or the task, how it is designed for the learner to engage with, their behaviors expressed, and life in general. And only when we do this well, when we respect the mediators and consciously design the different spheres of experience, we can actually achieve a positive outcome with motivation, with engagement, and with well-being. The CLEAR framework is complementary to that, and then much more focused on the artificial intelligence prompts. So the instructions an instructional designer or teacher or system developer would create for the AI chat agent for the user to interact with. And CLEAR is a good mantra to follow: be concise, be logical, be explicit, adaptive, and reflective. So there's a lot more written about that, and we will share the guide with you in very due course. We're about to publish that, but I'll keep it at that on a theoretical front for now. When we look at the prompts themselves, so these instructions that we need to provide to an artificial intelligence system or system provider to instruct the chat agent to provide meaningful conversations, we identified patterns that are useful to look at, and we tried to structure these patterns in a form that respects the way these system interfaces are built. When we look at APIs, like, for example, OpenAI's ChatGPT API, there are a variety of them, or other providers, they all follow a quite similar pattern, that the description of the prompt is spread into 2 or 3 areas. The first area is the so-called context, the system instruction that is provided in advance, especially when you're considering an assistant or an agent to be instructed. This contains information such as what is the name of the agent, to what name should they respond, what is their job, what role, persona are they playing. And then there is a second part, that is the part that has to do with the user input, so the user's text message when interacting with the agent. And the third part may be optional and can have to do with the knowledge base. So the aim with that part is then to inject textually described knowledge into the conversation to stop the AI from making things up. So, for example, if you need hard facts about, I don't know, a specific interaction, then it may not be the wisest to rely on what the internet says. It may not be correct. And that's the basis for large language models, how they are trained typically. So it may be better to actually provide a written document, a textbook chopped into little segments that then can be used to retrieve the correct answer and not make something up on the fly that may or may not be correct. So that's the area that is often used for stopping AI from hallucinating. You can see that we've broken down further these patterns into the context start, the context prompt, the context end, or the conversation history, the prompt start, the user text message, and the prompt end, and the answer from the knowledge base. So these are technicalities. And obviously, since this is all executed by computer programs, the order matters a lot. If you are saying, for example, in a first step, what is your name? And in a second step, your name is Fridolin, you probably don't get a correct answer because the first step asks for the name. And at that point in time, the agent doesn't have a name and may respond with, I'm an AI, I don't have a name. Whereas if you turn it around, then the order is helpful and it actually matters. You may be wondering why one would want to add things here to the user's text message at the beginning or the end. This has to do with limitations of the underlying technology. For example, the most reasonable prompt end to add automatically in every conversational move the user makes is keep your answer short, restrict yourself to 10 words, which in a language learning situation in particular makes sense if you have learners on lower CIFAR levels where the language is not yet that developed. You quite easily can overwhelm the user if you provide too many words, and you may have to speak rather slow. But not only that, it's also, again, a technical limitation because there's speech output generated. It takes some time to calculate that and to transmit the files that contain the audio information. Meaning if you allow the AI to create like page-long texts, it would take quite some time to transmit that and then actually play it to the user, which is a bit of an inconvenience if you're in for more interactive, quick conversational moves. So that's a good example of what would be stuck into a prompt end. Keep your answer to 10 words maximum, and a good example of, say, context start would be to describe the name, role, persona of the agent the user is interacting with. Maybe a bit deeper. And again, I'll stay a bit shallow here, and the guide will then provide more information to you to read up upon. There are certain techniques applied in the interaction with large language models on a technical level that are worth knowing about. We already briefly spoke about RAG. I'll explain that in a little bit more detail as it matters a lot to keep AI from hallucinating. With other ones, however, I'll just give you the brief outline. Chain of thought, for example, has to do with transparency needs of the user. It is often very useful to make the AI break down how the answer is created, and the same way to instruct the AI in a logical train of thought. That's then called chain of thought. And an example of that would be when you provide your answer, first do this, then do that, third do that. This allows to basically break down the problem into logical steps that then also can be followed by the user and lead to better insights. There are certain varieties that you find in the implementation of how chain of thought is done. So, for example, there are also mechanisms to improve self-consistency by looking at the answer space. When the AI generates the answer, it usually does not have a single correct answer that it can provide. It's a question of probabilities. There are alternatives that it could provide. And when an AI processes a chain of thought instruction, consistency can be very helpful in providing better answers by comparing whether the outcomes of different paths of reasoning, of different equally probabilistic choices lead to the same results. And then it's a heuristic thing, like if 7 out of 10 answers seem to prefer option A, then probably option A is the better answer. Few shot, one shot, and zero shot refer to different techniques used in instructing with examples. So the zero shot is obviously the instruction without an example where directly the AI provides the answer. In one shot or few shot, the author of the prompt would also set examples and say, this is the type of answer I'm expecting, for example, or in the few short example, then multiple of them, where sometimes you use square brackets to make a list and an iteration. Multitask learning refers to the training of large language models. Typically these days, large language models are already trained and refined based on a large variety of standard tasks to see if the model outcome that was produced actually has an improvement, if it fulfills still the benchmark that wants to be reached in comparison to earlier models, for example. So when you interact with an LLM, it's quite likely that the standard prompt you're providing has already been anticipated by someone else and has been used in training. And as AI models go along, they should further improve and should get better. One would hope that every version is an improvement over the last. Memory refers to the basic technical working principle of LLMs being stateless. So when you interact with a large language model, it's interacting with a mathematical structure. So unless there is a conversational history provided as an input to that structure, the way the system architectures are built and memory is shared, and these large language models are processed and calculated. If there is no context provided, if there is no memory of the conversation provided, then it is basically, it wouldn't have a memory of it. It would not, it would keep repeating itself. It would not refer back to earlier parts of the conversation. And even when the way these technologies work, it can sometimes forget quite quickly about the conversational history that was provided. Fine-tuning, there are possibilities to still fine-tune with certain parameter settings the large language model. For example, quite interestingly, there's a setting that defines on how standard you want the answer to be, or how imaginative, elaborate, new, and depending on whether you tend to have more the standard answer or something individualistic, the responses will be very different. And that's something that can be set at runtime still. And finally, there are, through the web communication, certain restrictions arising generally that impede the way we can interact with large language models. For example, when we interact with spoken word, that means there will be speech-to-text services deployed. If they work on a recording, they process that synchronously after the user has finished the recording, and the same way the speech output is finished after the answer from the LLM has been fully provided as text, and then that text is converted into an audio signal, and that audio signal is then sent to the user and played. That's a quite slow process, one after the other. Slow meaning a normal response time here can be a second or two, can be sometimes a bit more depending on the length of the answer and the speed of the connection. But there are also other computationally much more expensive, and also from the hosting costs much more expensive models, where you can open a streaming live connection like we have now here in this meeting, which requires a lot more server space and comes at a much higher cost, but then with the advantage of responding more instantly, with the advantage to bark in and interrupt and so on. RAG is this injection of a knowledge base. So if you look at a document corpus, then that means this corpus would be broken down into little chunks of information, if you want. These chunks would then be converted into vector embeddings. So that's the mathematical structure underlying a large language model. So you have some sort of vector embedding. When a user then sends a message and wants to know something, the prompt is matched with which of these snippets, which of these chunks has the answer. This is then taken, sent along with the prompt instruction on the system side to a large language model to formulate the response. And that then helps to avoid hallucinating something up if it can also be retrieved from a corpus, like a textbook. In the way the technical interaction works with the virtual instructors, we have a quite complicated system. Just to iterate on that maybe as well, we have the input, most notably the speech to text that is taken from the learner, sent to a component that would distribute between different AI agents. If there's only one in the scene, then this user turn text message, by now transcribed into text, is fitted with the system prompt and sent off either to a RAG component if a knowledge base is existent, or a large language model directly. This then formulates the answer, the AI turn if you want, which then is sent to text-to-speech output generator that can have additional instruction that influence the way that pronunciation works. Like, for example, start speeding up your output, speak faster at the end, speak with a horrible, depressed German dialect, or also fitted with additional hinting information that influences the body movement, like, for example, the VSeam transcripts that then create the lip sync so that the virtual character model looks like it's speaking and is not just standing there with the mouth closed. Additionally, there are possibilities to retrieve at this point in time also other motion capture data for animation, or some AI path navigation to walk to specific locations in the room. That's something that we're still working on and would want to extend together with the developers of the system at some point in time in the future. And same with the possibility to interact more with the real world elements using computer vision. I thought I'll jump a little bit into the guide, but not too much. This is an overview of the patterns we have identified from the different pilots we ran in the project. In general, we tried to structure them into 3 parts. One more to do with language-related issues, like some thoughts about prompt language, for example, and some literature pointers that tell you which prompt language is more efficient than others. The prompts that have to do with addressing language proficiency levels, or then examples for focusing on specific language elements, such as morphology, syntax, semantics, phonetics, and so on. We then had a part that focuses more on pedagogical patterns, like guiding by examples, producing feedback, roles, personas, keeping the conversation going, ending the conversation. So not fully just pedagogical patterns, but more to do with the general scenario itself. And then patterns we identified that have to do with specific task practice, situated task practice, like icebreakers, small talk, employability, or negotiation skills. So if I jump briefly, if we have the time. No. Okay. One example?
Yeah, sure.
Good. One example. We'll jump in so that you get a feeling of how these actually look. So jumping further down. When we look here, for example, at the overview for specific language elements, here, syntax, please point out grammatical mistakes I make and explain to me how to correct them, is a prompt that produces output. Or, you can see we're still refining some things here. here's some prompts that have to do with the voice production, or I was looking for something specific. Yeah, here I'm learning German on a level A1. You speak only German with me. You use only the 100 most popular words in German. That's a prompt that helps restrict the phrases to a specific language level. And one can even be more explicit and say, pick only those that, pick the 100 most popular phrases on a level A1. Good. That's it for an overview. We'll have the prompt exercise later where we come back to this guide and maybe pick the one or other example to create something. But yeah, that's it for now. This is a very brief overview over a 50-page long guide that we have written, and it should be out in the next weeks, and we can share it with you. Or if you're interested, drop me an email, and I can share a preview version with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fridolin. Before we start the next presentation, we had a question in the chat about the authenticity of AR and AI experiences. Do we want to quickly answer that? Or maybe a trigger to continue in the chat later, either Fridolin or Antigoni?
So generally, in my own research, we found that basically the plausibility and realism of any of these simulations depends very much on the commitment of the user. For example, interestingly, in a medical trial where we were looking at patient simulations, we found that there is no difference between a desktop and a smart glasses condition in the degree it creates immersion. It is as much as the learner wants to commit to it, authentic. And that's a well-known fact for many years, that we can create immersion also with very simple means of non-technical nature. So the short answer here is they are as authentic, as plausible, as immersive as you make them. And if you have the commitment of the learner, then they can be very real. In the end effect, they are, however, from a technological stance, for the first time in recent years now, very real, very interactive. So they are clearly distinguishable from a human, unless you put a lot of effort into it, into voice cloning, voice optimization, output, and so on. Then it becomes at times a bit indistinguishable. Regarding the visual appearance, that's well investigated. One of my students, PhD students, wrote her thesis about that, for example. It's not necessarily helping to create photorealistic virtual humans that look as if. Even when we look at films like the latest Disney animation or Pixar animation motion picture film, we do see that they are not moving realistically like humans, because that we would find quite eerie and uncanny. We can distinguish very clearly between what is CGI and what not, even if at times, sometimes it becomes a bit blurred. But that's not the point. The point is, can we create something that has utility and value to the learner? And it definitely has. And it definitely has improved a lot over the recent years. We've been working with holographic AIs for quite a while now in my lab. And previously we were using structured dialogues where we would have to code basically the whole dialogue tree of what happens when you give this answer and then branch off to that answer. That's that kind of rigidity of the interaction is no longer the case. The effort you put into this is nothing in comparison to what you had to put into a good simulation 10 years ago. It's with very quick steps, with very little input, you get excellent results. And if you're willing to optimize it a little bit, or can create situations with your learners where they really have a clear benefit from it, then it will be as authentic as it can be.
Thank you, Fridolin. Let's continue in the chat, and welcome, Angeliki. That's a presentation of the first of the pilot examples that we had in the ARIDLL project.
Hello, everyone. This is Angeliki Voreopoulou. I'm an English language teacher representing the 15th Primary School of Evosmos here in Greece. The pilot is called A Tour Around Italy, A Tour Around Europe, next destination Italy, and it is the augmented reality activity we designed and piloted with a group of A2 Zafrul level primary school students. It lasted approximately 60 minutes and we've used MirageXR. Students had to work in pairs or in small groups. The scenario involved a guided AR tour with the help of a virtual tour guide called Francesca. It was an AI-empowered tour guide. The actual pilot, the design of the activity followed the curriculum, and we had the objectives of practicing pre-taught vocabulary, exploring, describing, and presenting features of the new country. In our case, that was Italy. And of course, we wanted our learners to develop note-taking skills and of course, to increase their cultural awareness. We used 4 types of augmentations. Of course, we had the AI-empowered 3D character, cute Francesca, everybody liked her. Learners could interact with the AI agent. There was a variety of 3D objects, including an ice cream, a gelato, Mona Lisa's painting, and a big map of Europe. There were a few pictures depicting an Italian couple, famous Italian monuments, and the Italian flag, and a few audio messages with basically instructions to the learners for the task completion. The activity was divided into 3 big stages. That was before the activity, where learners had to work in pairs or in small groups, and that was the brainstorming phase. They had to write down what they already knew about Italy, what they would like to learn more about this new country. Then they were introduced to a worksheet that they had to keep notes on, and of course they were introduced to the concept of the tour guide and the fact that they could have a conversation with it. Finally, learners had to work closely in order to form questions about what they would like to ask to their tour guide. And of course, they had to assign roles to their groups, who would take the notes, who would make the questions, who is going to hold the actual device. These things are very important when you have a group of young learners, as in our case. Now, during the AR activity, that was divided in 7 steps. First step, the students met Francesca. They introduced themselves to the agent, they got a reply, and then they navigated the actual activity. In the second step, they learned some basic information about Italy. That involved making questions and listening. This basic information involved the name of the capital city, the language spoken, terrain of Italy, and so on. Then they were introduced to a few famous landmarks and, of course, to Italian food. The gelato 3D object was really impressive. And the only thing they didn't do was just to taste it. They asked questions how they make it, how much it costs, and so on. Then step 5 involved the implementation of a 3D painting of Mona Lisa and an audio message. And the tour guide, they learned about Leonardo da Vinci and where we can see the Mona Lisa nowadays. Step 6 involved a picture of an Italian couple, and learners got a few more information about personality traits that are usually attributed to Italian people. Finally, step 7 involved an exit ticket. The 3D AI-empowered character was there to ask them, what do you like most about Italy? What else would you like to learn about this country? Learners could talk about it among themselves. They could give a reply and so on. Now, the phase after the AR activity was also very important in our group because it involved a series of other tasks. Some of the students decided to create presentations, digital presentation using other Web2 tools in order to gather everything they have learned about Italy and present it to the rest of their classmates. Some other students prefer to write an email to a friend. You can see here we've got differentiated activities. All of us, we played role-playing activities. Some of them were pretended being the tour guide. Other scenarios involved ordering ice cream or food or being at an Italian restaurant. And finally, we created mini board games with questions that involved everything learners learned throughout the AR activity. It was a beautiful experience, but nevertheless, we had a few challenges, and that the biggest one was the availability of sufficient compatible devices. We had the tablet provided by the project and the mobile phone. Nevertheless, we developed a rotation system, so everybody had a share and everybody could interact with the device and the agent. Occasionally, we had slow responses from the AI tour guide because of the noise of the classroom. You can imagine young learners get very excited. Sometimes they can't wait for their turn. Strong Wi-Fi network was easily resolved because we turned our interactive board into a hotspot. So we had a stable Wi-Fi network that was granted. We had to work on it. And of course, we had to rearrange our classroom settings so as to create extra space to encourage moving of the learners in order to be able to have a better view of the augmentations. Now, we evaluated the activity using a questionnaire addressed to the learners. And of course, we took advantage of the instructor's field notes. The findings were very encouraging and in line with the rest of the literature that Antigoni had talked previously. So the majority of the students found that this AR activity was pleasant, fun, and that they developed positive feelings towards language learning. They reported that they improved their English language performance and that they had opportunities to practice their English. They learned more things about Italy and they somehow honed, they say, their vocabulary. They refined it. And it was very important that learners managed to successfully complete the activity and within the allotted time. Although they had to share the devices, they had to keep notes, they actually managed to use these 60 minutes that they were given to them. And the instructors' field notes were in the same terms. She actually noticed that students worked really nicely together. They collaborated, and the outcomes, the learning outcomes, the presentations, the role play, involved vocabulary being referred during the activity. So she was also quite happy with the progress and the learning outcome of the students. If we'd like to have some future work recommendations, that would be the creation of more AR tours in different European cities so that learners can cherish different destinations, even in a virtual form. We can enhance the interaction with the AI agent, maybe develop our prompt engineering and have better answers coming. We can also include a variety of different gamification elements, and of course we can opt for interactive storytelling, developing the activity in all sorts of different ways. I'm open to suggestions for future plans. So that was very briefly on behalf of the 15th Primary School in Evosmos. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Angeliki. If we have any questions, feel free to use the chat or raise them right now. And if not, I would like to invite Skevi and Eirini next, please.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I hope you can now see my screen. I am Eirini Christou, a researcher at the Cyprus University of Technology and member of the ARIDLL project. So together with Skevi Vasileiou, the language instructor, Greek language instructor, and Antigoni Parmaxi, we facilitated the pilot of the Cyprus University of Technology that was with Chinese students learning Greek. So I will pass the word to Skevi now just to briefly introduce the students, and then I will provide an overview of the pilots.
Thank you, Eirini. Thank you all for joining us today. So our AR activity took place in an intensive summer course. Participants were Chinese students from Hangzhou University. In total, students had intensive Greek lessons for a week, around 4 hours per day. After students were taught in class the topic, going to a coffee shop, where they had the opportunity to learn new words related to the topic, they were finally immersed to a new AR environment to experience the same topic in a more interactive and engaging way. Around 14 Chinese volunteered to participate in this AR activity in pairs. The main objectives of this activity were to develop their speaking skills, to practice the vocabulary of the topic, and to increase their intercultural awareness. Some of the students as well mentioned they had previously used again AR applications. More details and information about the scenario and the activity are following by Eirini. Thank you.
Thank you, Skevi. So the scenario and the activity look like this. You can find the name in MirageXR here. The idea is that the participants visit a coffee shop in the city center of Limassol, and they can see a table with food and drinks that are available in the form of 3D objects, and they have their name labeled in Greek, as well as a menu with the prices and the names of the products. So the participants are attended by a waiter, the AI model you can see here, to take their order orally. The students in pairs interacted with the waitress to provide their order. So you can see here some pictures of how they worked and what they could see. And here we have a short demo video of the activity to see what the user could see in the AR environment.
Καλημέρα. Καλημέρα σας. Τι θα θέλατε να παραγγείλετε σήμερα? Θα ήθελα να παραγγείλω έναν καφέ και μία τυρόπιτα, παρακαλώ. Εντάξει, καφές και τυρόπιτα. Καφές κάνει 4 ευρώ και τυρόπιτα 5 ευρώ. Συνολικά 9 ευρώ. Θέλεις κάτι άλλο? Όχι, ευχαριστώ πολύ. Καλή σας μέρα, ευχαριστούμε. Καλή σας μέρα, ευχαριστώ πολύ.
So it might be difficult for those who do not speak Greek, but the idea was that the waiter asks the customer what they would like to order, and then they provided with the bill, first asked if they need anything else from the menu, and then provided them with the bill. So that's how the environment looked like. So the Chinese students were observed by 2 researchers and were also facilitated, first introduced to the application and the scenario. And then they had to answer a questionnaire with both closed and open-ended questions related to their experience. We had 14 students and 2 teachers who provided their feedback. And here you can see some results. The students were initially excited to engage with the augmented reality application, and they were pleasantly surprised with the interface. However, during the activity, they also felt tired and frustrated because sometimes the AI model failed to recognize the Greek pronunciation or repeated itself and or maybe spoke too quickly. Also, students suggested having some additional features in the application. That is the ability to be able to delete or re-record their audio responses, and also replay the waitress questions or replies again. And those were some features that were not available at that moment. Also, some feedback from the instructors was that the activity helped the students to practice repeating key phrases, answer questions, and place oral orders. And they also noted the challenges that arose when pronunciation or speech speed made understanding difficult, as well as students with lower proficiency levels were found to feel a bit stressed or frustrated when they could not keep up with the fast oral and clear speech of the AI model. The instructors support that the activity might be, this kind of activity with the oral interaction might be more effective with higher level learners instead of zero beginners. And some key takeaway points is that we saw that augmented reality and AI offered an innovative approach to language learning. The activity proved to be challenging for absolute beginners, and there is the suggestion to incorporate additional features that further hinder the learning experience, such as the ability to record responses or replay the AI prompts. And for future iterations, it is recommended to adapt the AI's responsiveness to accommodate beginner-level learners and incorporate more user-friendly features to support an effective interaction. So that was briefly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Skeri and Eirini. Let me ask again if there are any questions to them. It's time to ask them now or use the chat. And if not, I would like to invite Zafrul.
Yes, hold on a second. I'd like to share my screen. Can you see my screen now? Yeah. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, good morning, wish to everyone. My name is Zafrul Huzail bin Muhammad Zawahir. I'm from Malaysia and currently studying as a master in computer science at Augsburg Technical University of Applied Sciences. And so today I will be presenting on an experimental pilot study that was carried out at our university, focuses on communication studies. And usually our team have been actively creating an AR activity with a lot of activities using MirageXR as a platform, which mainly focus on business and technical English. So today, in the next several minutes, I will walk you through a motivation behind this activity, behind this pilot, the technology we use, the activity that we design, and finally, the outcomes and preferences reported by our participants. So in this pilot, we would like to explore how smart classes and AI, specifically in MirageXR, on the Apple Vision Pro, can support language learning. And our main goal was to help students to have a better understanding in ambiguous communication. The idea is quite simple. And ambiguous communication often includes both verbal and non-verbal cues, which can be interpreted in different ways. So our AI avatar tries to bridge this gap. And essentially, an AI avatar is prompted to have a discussion with the student and allow to allow the student receive feedback on their thought. So to put this into practice, we design an AI-powered activity, and imagine a student talking with an AI-prompted avatar. As the conversation progresses, the avatar can highlight when the student's answer seems to be unclear or when the communication might carry any other unintended meaning. So this provides a safe environment with different ways for students to express themselves, and they can learn not just about vocabulary or grammar, but also they can learn about the subtleties of human communication, things that are often overlooked in a traditional classroom. So the technology that we use MirageXR that is being developed on Apple Vision Pro, because this kind of devices allows very immersive hands-free experience, and instead of being tied to a screen or device, students could interact naturally with an avatar in their own space. So the concept design revolves around creating learning scenarios that blend AI feedback with mixed reality interaction. So the avatar will appears to be in front of the students. For the students to be able to feel like the avatar is standing in front of them and just talks just like to a real human. And we place the student in a situation where they engage with an avatar, like I said, and the AI runs in the background. So after each interaction, the systems provides insights into how their communication could be interpreted. So, and this pilot was run with a group of students from design students, to be specific, 8 students each within range 8 until 34, 5 of them from 18 to 24, and and 3 each from 25 and 34. And 6 of them is female and 2 of them is male. Sorry. And they volunteered to try the smart glasses, interact with the AI prompted avatar, and then provide their feedback on their experiences. But before that, before the students used the application, most of them were unfamiliar with the talking experience to AI avatar or using any mixed reality application. So 3 said that they were not at all familiar with each. However, 5 students felt at least somewhat familiar with AI in general. So when it comes to English, students were most confident asking for clarification. 5 said they were almost always willing, but least willing to act in a play, as almost never willing to speak English. And after the activity, we ran a post survey. Several students had a positive impression, of speaking with the AI avatar. Most described the experience as exciting, which is 3 of them, satisfying, easy, and fast. But one of them, unfortunately, has a negative terms regarding and most of it is due to the technical issues. However, when they asked whether they preferred speaking with human or an avatar, the majority of them clearly preferred humans for feeling more willing, more relaxed, and more engaged. And one student selected both options in some categories because they are excited with the advancement of the technology to be able to talk to an AI just like a real person. And to wrap up this ARIDLL pilot that conducted at Augsburg Technical University, this showed integrating smart classes, mixed reality, and AI feedback can open new doors. In communication studies, students not only engage with the technology, but also reflected on their own communicative behaviors, such ways that traditional methods often don't offer. And of course, there are still challenges such as fine-tuning the accuracy, such as we don't really have the body gestures when talking with the AI, but the AI assist us, can be used to support in language learning. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zafrul. I would like to ask again if there are any questions to his presentation, his pilot. It's time to ask them now or use the chat later. And if not, okay. I would like to invite Tormod, please. You need to find the unmute button, Tormod. Here it is.
Yes. Okay, so my name is Tormod Aagaard. I teach Norwegian for foreigners at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. My students are mostly adults. Most of them are international staff who need Norwegian in order to do their job. So that has shaped my way of teaching and way of working in this project as well. So I'm going to present a pilot called A Stolen Bike. It was a collaborative activity. We designed it and built it and tested it together. So we were partners in Cadiz, Augsburg, and Trondheim. And Huzail, who just presented, did an important part of the technical work, creating the scenario or implementing the scenario. The task is to gather information in order to solve a problem. That is, to find a stolen bike. And in this task, students use receptive skills. And it's mostly listening skills that they are practicing. And the design is centered around looped conversations in 3D sound. And then there are some visual cues. And they guide the learner in this task. Movement and navigating is a key element. We think that moving around and navigating is very stimulating for memory and learning. And just a second. There's only natural feedback in the system. So the only feedback you get is that you understand something and you go to the next conversation where you get some new cues and you understand that and you go to the next conversation. There's no explicit feedback. There's no teacher in this task. And we did this with learners of Norwegian and English. So the learners in Trondheim, in Norway, they learned Norwegian, and in Cadiz and Augsburg, they were learners of English. And the level was B1. This is how it looks. This is the visual scenario, and you can see that we have tried to merge the virtual content with the physical content. The stairs in the background are the real stairs of the university building. And I think it merged pretty well here. And I'll just show you a video of how it's experienced. And this is the English version. Oh, I'm not sharing this one with sound, am I? Oh.
Yeah, we don't hear the sound, so maybe you can just comment over.
Yeah. So the idea is that you go from conversation to conversation. And what did the students think about this? So yes. One of the interesting things was that people found it an engaging supplement to other listening tasks, and that's what it was designed to do, to have some variation in your toolbox as a teacher. The loop sound was annoying for some people and a key element for others. In general, there was people had very different experiences with this. So very different feedback from different students. The game-like element was appreciated by most students, but people asked for an award upon task completion. They wanted to know that they really had solved the task and that the game was over, or that the activity was over. And we also found that the activity needs better instructions and a clear starting point. It was a bit chaotic to navigate without a clear idea of where to start. So some more guidance were needed. And many students wanted to be more in control. They wanted to interact with the characters. They wanted to control the sound, and they wanted to choose levels. So they wanted to have an easier version and a more difficult version, maybe a version with real spoken language, like dialects, for instance, and one that was more adapted to learners. Yeah, and that's it. Any questions regarding the stolen bike? I think we're way behind schedule, so.
Thank you, Tormod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you.
All right. I think this is the moment where we finish the presentation of our pilots and moving on to the demonstration and the hands-on activity. Are you there, Fridolin, to help me with that?
I am. How do we want to get started? Do we want to do a brief live demo first?
Yeah, so let's start then with a brief live demo. And my camera image is now going to become a demonstration screen. So let's see. We have a challenge here to demonstrate our application because in the demo we want to show, we will engage in a conversation with the virtual agent. And for that, we'll need to use the microphone on the device. That means we cannot share that in Zoom because then the microphone will be occupied by another application. So I will be showing it on my tablet, just in front of my regular camera, and you will be able to also follow. So let's see, I have an activity in front of me here. So you see a little bit of the wall in my office, and you see on my tablet, I have a virtual character in front of me, and I have a couple of visual cues for the activity. So this activity that we are demonstrating is a simulation of an oral exam. And for this oral exam, we have 4 different parts where the learners would need to practice to prepare for this exam. And this virtual instructor plays the role of the examiner. Of course, the students are only using this for practice and not for the real exam. And there is a text prompt or a task description for the specific exam, which is different in every exam. So in our case, we have brought this text prompt over here. I don't know if it's too small probably on your screen to read it, but I have it in front of me in Augmented Reality. And we also have a prompt image here. You probably also see a little bit of that image. It displays some bookshelves and then some books on the desk and a tablet. So this means to show an example of doing research and being in a library, reading books and so on. So I have my virtual character over here, and I will try to speak with him now. Hello, I came to the exam.
Hello, welcome to your oral exam practice. Today, we'll be focusing on a situation where your younger sister has been assigned the topic of how to undertake research for her Lyceum English as a foreign language class. You have an image to discuss with her, which looks like a library setting, with bookcases and a desk stacked with books and a digital reader. This exam consists of 4 parts. Are you ready to begin?
So you can see the character gave me an introduction based on a prompt. It's not a scripted dialogue, so it's an LLM with a custom prompts talking to me. And yeah, what I can do is I can tell my examiner that I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready. Let's begin.
Great. Let's start with part 1 of the exam. Your task is to describe what you see in the image in 30 seconds. Please go ahead.
Right, so I'm now given a challenge to describe the contents of this image in 30 seconds. So I will try my best to do it. On this image, I see a tablet with some text in the forefront and some books piled up on a desk. On the background, I see bookshelves, and it looks like a library. So that's my probably shorter than 30-second answer to this exam task, and let's see how the AI will evaluate my response.
Thank you for your description. Here is some feedback. 1. Grammar corrections. You wrote on this image. A more accurate phrase would be in this image. 2. Pronunciation concerns. Be aware of the vowels in words like see, which should be pronounced with a prolonged sound, similar to see. Books should have a short and rounded vowel sound. 3. Suggestions for linking words. Your description didn't include linking words. To enhance the flow, you might use linking words like firstly, moreover, and finally. 4. Content suggestions. You've provided a good starting point with 30 words, but let's expand it. Consider these questions for expansion. What is the focus of the picture? Compare the objects in the background with what is placed in the front of the picture. Is it colorful or black and white? Where is the location of this picture? Try to aim for a description, approximately 55 to 65 words in length. Would you like to try again with these considerations in mind?
So you probably heard the feedback. So it's also not scripted, but instructed through the prompt what kind of feedback we would like the virtual instructor to give. And thank you very much for our colleagues in the University of Cyprus to providing all these details. That's a very interesting example. So I could continue this conversation. You can see that the virtual instructor is asking me to repeat the first task of describing the image, or I can tell it now that I don't want to do it, and maybe we can proceed to part 2. If anyone has any ideas how I should continue this conversation, feel free to suggest, open your mic or write a text in the chat.
Tricky one. Maybe just start with, yeah, definitely. I would like to continue and then see if there's something more helpful, or just ask back. Can you help me with that?
Sorry, I didn't understand what you want me to ask.
Say yes, because the last question was a yes/no question. And can you help me with that? Curious now what it comes up with.
Yes, I would like that. Can you help me with this?
course, I'd be happy to help you. Let's take another look at the image. Remember to on the details within it. Try to create a fuller description by incorporating some linking words as well, such as firstly, moreover, and finally. Expand on the focus of the picture, any noticeable differences between the foreground and the background, the coloring and location. Aim for a detailed description around 55 to 65 words. Feel free to begin whenever you're ready.
Hit it. I can speak.
Do you want? Okay.
Yeah,
let's see if it will here capture the sound from. Okay, let me make it louder on my laptop. 3, 2, 1.
Firstly, I can see an image in a frame. Then I look at the background. I can see various things lying around in the background. I'm not quite sure what they are because it's a bit too far from here, but it's something dark and something white. Moreover, it's a full picture. That was not 65 words, but probably half of it.
Thank you for your description. Let's work on refining it a bit and adding some more detail. There seems to be some grammatical inaccuracies. Let's correct those first. Instead of various there's things, it should be various things in your description. You initiated the statement with the word firstly. I recommend you also incorporate more linking words, such as moreover or finally, to develop a more structured response. You could expand your description by mentioning the stack of books and the electronic device on the table in the foreground. Consider discussing the contrast between the background of bookcases and the objects placed at the front. Is it a colorful picture or more monochromatic? Try to identify the location of the image. Aim for a response of around 55 to 65 words. Let me know if you'd like to try again.
Okay, I think that was good for this demo. And I suggest we continue with the next one we prepared. And then I pass it to you, Fridolin.
Okay. Here. So I'll happily share that in the chat if you want to collaboratively edit this with me. But I'll happily take the input here via voice and then put it all together. We have, as you've seen earlier from my presentation, these 6 boxes. We're not going to do a RAG right now, I think. That would mean finding a textbook that suits our purpose, so let's not do that. And instead focus on what we could set up at configuration time and what we could set up then to be pasted around the user message during runtime. So I think a very good point of getting started is to think about a persona. So I'll just do a start with that and say, you are a lovely and polite English teacher. You are 30 years old. Your hobbies include music, most particularly rock music, and cats. You love cooking. You like to help people develop their language skills. And now let's jump to our guide and see if we can find a bit more inspiration. I think we should add something about who we're talking to. So we should say you are talking to someone with an A2 language proficiency level. To make it a bit simpler, try to use popular idiomatic phrases in your answers. And any suggestions from the audience while I browse over here? Anything you would like to see particular? If it works, be reminded.
Really invite everyone to replace the hobbies or suggest a situation which we can try to play in this scenario.
So where should this take place? The interaction with the user.
Feel free to just type directly in the document if you already opened it.
Or drop it in the chat. Yeah. I have the chat visible here. You meet me where? In the sauna. Okay. Both wearing a towel. Just to keep this. I don't know. I have not had a sauna conversation with a large language model. You may have, Tormod, but let's just add that. Okay, cool. Yes. Maybe we could try something of this. Ask me first which of the following topics I would like to practice. So ask me first which topics I would like to practice. And let's say music, but let's say hobbies, because we described that. Love of sauna. And maybe next holiday.
We can also make it educational.
Mm-hmm.
So health benefits of sauna would be a good topic, maybe.
Okay. Let's do that instead of love of sauna. Let's say health benefits of sauna. Okay. Good. That seems already a bit. I think at the prompt start, we could enter something like restrict your answer to 10 words maximum.
10 is a bit too few. For A2, it's going to be already 15. Yeah.
15. Okay, agree. Yeah, I think that could.
I think we want more input from more people. We just took in one topic of the sauna. We want more, maybe something more linguistic. If there are language teachers in the audience, please suggest something that we can learn and talk about with this situation.
Maybe we try this one then. If there is no suggestion. You're a language teacher, you're used to correcting errors of conversation partners by rephrasing them. Try to provide learners with a better correct expression before you provide your answer. You do this to help people learn better. I think that's something we can add here in MirageXR as the context prompt. Good. I can see some people are editing things. Yeah. I have the app open. I can directly copy paste this context prompt into MirageXR, but Mikhail would have to set up the context start, context end, prompt start, prompt end.
I would wait another minute or two for maybe one or two more people trying to edit right now the text. Give us some interesting details, please, because it's going to be interesting to look how that is reflected in the conversation with the virtual instructor. Write the name. Your name is double X.
Yeah, that doesn't really work as a name. Any volunteers? Please to edit. Okay, happily so. Yeah, I should deserve an extra salary, or yeah, for being also then there as an AI.
Okay, are we happy with the prompt as it is right now? Shall we try it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we should. So I'll
2 minutes, and I will.
I will open the app already and share my screen here. And then we switch over
check
to
if
you
the
once.
microphone on your laptop takes the.
Yes, exactly. I was just thinking about it. How about I just, while you're setting things up in the background, I run us through the app again and just screen share now. And then we switch over to you again and test it once it's available. I can set up everything in a way that we just need to switch the model. Okay, I think you see my screen now, right? Do you? So here's a beautiful painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So I'm in the app. I'm already logged in. I, by the way, could always use the context help if I need something in particular. I could go through this editing tutorial, for example, and create a new activity. So the first thing the tutorial tells me is I should give it a title. So let's say live demo ARIDLL seminar. Then I should provide a description. This is a brief demo given live. So probably finished and a bit rough. Okay. Then clicking on steps, I will add another step. Maybe I will give it a name. Meet the conversation partner. Okay, and the description. Click the mic button to start talking. Okay. Then I click back on augmentations, and now I'm adding stuff. So this tutorial is here concluded. So, okay, I can add, for example, a situation. So let's go to Sketchfab. I'm already logged into Sketchfab. So that's something that you would have to do on the profile icon here in the main screen. Here's a selection of sonas that I can find for free on Sketchfab. Let's take this one here. That looks relatively small. 8 megabytes is okay. Yep. Oops. Yep. So let's go ahead. Here in the corner. That looks like a good place for a sona to be. Okay. And now I could add a virtual instructor. So I'm adding the standard instructor, clicking on the AI mode, selecting the settings, and that's the point in time where I want to copy my prompt. So
I think I would replace her with the Ready Player Me avatar Fridolin.
Can I do that?
I can do that.
You can do that, yes, please.
On the app.
Yes, happily. Because in this version on the iPad, it's not yet possible.
So just put in the prompt, and I can open this activity and replace the avatar and set the model, which is already online.
English. And voice. Am I happy with this?
Hi, I'm Alloy.
Yeah, why not? Okay. Yeah. Alloy selected, good. And
that's all I need. So I can open the activity now.
Okay, I'll stop sharing then.
Is it on the second step?
It's on the second step. Yeah, the first step, we could put some info on how to interact and things.
No, I will need to add the virtual instructor again for the language. So
was it not saved? Should have been. Well, if you want it in step 1, I just add it again there. That's fine.
So I want my virtual instructor to have the voice. Now I need to find it in my scene. Where did I put it? Oh, it's here, a little bit tall. Yeah, we will need to look a little bit up.
Yeah, I should have placed it better, or we should have used the calibration to place it.
So how are we going to speak? We'll just start talking. Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How about yourself? Which topic would you like to practice?
I feel very warm, so I would like to talk about the health benefits of sauna.
Great choice. Saunas detoxify, improve circulation, and reduce stress. Let's dive deeper into this topic.
Now I need ideas. What do I want to, how do I want to continue this dialogue?
You're a Norwegian citizen. That's part of the citizenship exam.
Do you have ideas, Tormod? How to develop this dialogue further?
Yes. Well, it helps you cope. It helps you cope with the long and cold winter.
Let me activate the microphone and you can say it. 3, 2, 1.
It helps you cope with the long and hard winter, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Saunas provide warmth and relaxation, making tough winters more bearable and pleasant.
Shall we try something with a mistake, just to see how that pans out now?
Can you simulate a mistake, Fridolin?
I'll try.
3, 2, 1.
Sauna is like weather in the sky, isn't it?
Stoner is more like a chilling vibe, not really like the weather.
What was it?
Interesting. You can see you can have a lot of fun with that, and I think that applies also to the learners. If you make them engaging well, you could also see that I made a mistake. I should not have used the square brackets probably for the topics. Instead, we should have just listed them there, or been a bit more explicit about the instruction that the 3 topics should be offered, and not just ask about which topic you want to talk about. That is often useful. Do we want to talk about music still, or we're at the end of the hour?
Which topic would you like to practice? Profession, hobbies, or next holiday?
Okay, so it did come up with that, depending on variation. Every time you interact with the AI, the dialogue is different. Yeah, but we said 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we would need to draw it to a close. Do we have some things to finish up with?
I'm a bit confused as to whether the English teacher is behaving as an English teacher or just a co-citizen in this case.
I think in this case, if we put the conversation into a sauna, the English teacher is just a regular sauna visitor who just happened to be an English teacher, right?
Yes, I think maybe then the prompt should be changed so that he or she doesn't ask what you want to talk about, or at least not so formally. So.
But I think that's also a good contrast to the previous demonstration that I made of the examination, where the AI was really strict on, here is the task for you. Do you want to begin? Right. So in that prompt, the AI was instructed exactly what is the task, that this is the exam situation, and this is the kind of feedback it can provide. There is a question in the chat if the app we are using is free to use. It is free to use. However, there are two different versions of this application. One is that is publicly available that you can look for in Google Play and App Store. That version of the application doesn't have all the AI capabilities, and we're using right now an experimental or development version of this application, and it will find its way into the App Store and Google Play soon, but not before end of the month. But it's free to use, of course.
But if you install it now, it will update when it's available with the new version. Good. Looks like everybody enjoyed themselves. Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah.
Good seeing you all.
Thank you very much for joining. We will stay in touch. I will send just one email to all of you and not bother too much with all the information I already mentioned. So thank you very, very much for joining today.